Hey, what's up, Francis? Just kind of waiting on people to get in here. It was just kind of impromptu. Hey, Ahmed, how you doing? Can you hear me, Ahmed?
How's your day coming along? Yeah, I can hear you.
Right on, man. It's coming along pretty good. Just hot as heck here.
Where are you at?
Washington State.
Nice. I'm in San Francisco. Not too far.
Not too far at all. Pretty warm there too.
No, it's like it's high 50s, low 60s.
Dang, that's not bad at all. Did you, Ahmed or Francis? You guys happen to see the that article about Ukraine and the UAP?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, that's interesting, eh?
It's crazy, huh? So, I know that I was looking at. I'm gonna post it in the thread here in a second, and I'll put it in the nest. But the phantoms, that's what I'm seeing, man. What they're describing as phantoms.
Yeah, the ones that sell pie. I've seen. They were saying other stuff as well. There's two types. Phantoms.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I think there's several, Francis. Go ahead,
Yeah,
keep going. I want to hear more.
There's quite a few types there that they were picked up on.
Yeah, there was the what did they call them? It was the phantoms, and there's what cosmic phantoms.
Cosmic.
That's
That's it. Aye.
that's right. If you guys.
That's a turn up for the books, considering they're actually at war.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I said, though, I've been saying in spaces, we can't rely on the government for disclosure. It's taking civilian efforts, and this was a civilian effort in Ukraine, man. So it's pretty nuts.
It's just nasty and nuts at the same time, but the heart goes out to the people, Ukrainians, but all can do is support them in any manoeuvre they need,
Oh, I agree. My heart goes out to them too. And then while this is going on, while they're in the middle of a freaking war, they're actually doing freaking science for UAPs.
Aye. Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. It's so mad.
The biggest government in the world is sitting on their hands.
It kind of proves that of all the posts and tweets we've seen the past months or even before that, there's sightings all over the world. They've increased.
Yeah.
Not just here in Scotland.
Hey, let me ask you this, Francis. Have your guys' in Scotland, has your guys' sightings started increasing?
Yeah. I got one last month, sure, if you look at my thread. It looked like the gimbal just outside Glasgow. Then in November, you had the police helicopter facing too off in the sky. Last November. That's that can be found if you Google it. Glasgow Live News. And just Google 2 UFOs, Glasgow Live News, and you'll see the Scottish police helicopter facing too off in the sky. But they kept it quiet.
Yeah, they seem to always keep everything quiet, and that's why it's so sketchy about this. But right now, I'm telling you, it's they can't control it. There's so much of it out there. And then that article from Ukraine. Hey, Ganga, did you see that? Oh, Ganga split. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and post it. So you guys entertain yourself for 3 seconds. Let me post it in this thread so some of these guys can catch it.
Well, listen, I'm at work at the moment, so I'm going to nick in and out if that's okay.
You do you, brother. I appreciate you being here.
Cheers, man. Thanks. All the best, guys. Good to see everybody in.
Yeah, so if you guys are just joining us, we're sitting talking about the article that just came out by Ukraine, right? I'm trying to find it and put it up in the thread. Here it is. So I want to post it up here in the nest. And it talks about a civilian effort that they've been putting in all while this war is going on. And they've got some pretty crazy documentation. And the gist of it is they got two types that they've documented. And one of them they call phantoms, cosmic phantoms. And the other, and I can't remember the name of the other one. But so they've got it clocked using their different devices, whatever, 35,000 miles an hour in the upper atmosphere, just back and forth. Is that not crazy? I mean, 35, and this is what I've been describing, though. Whatever they call the phantoms, what I'm seeing moving back and forth in the upper atmosphere, they talk about no light source. I mean, you can go back and listen to space after space, where I'm just constantly saying there's really no light source to it, but you can see it, and except that they're flashing at me, so it's kind of. Hey, welcome, Brandon. Are you there, bud? There he is.
Hey,
Right on. Did you see
I
that
had a
article?
question. Yeah, man, I had read it earlier. I got a question for you. You know, you were out in Afghanistan and Iraq as well. Did you see those in the hot spots? Did you guys have more activity in those zones?
You know what, man? Here's the crazy part. I didn't see shit till 2020 when I left Wounded Warrior well, a little bit after I left Wounded Warrior for the last time. But my great grandfather was a World War II Korea pilot, and he encountered Foo Fighters twice.
Oh, okay.
So I may not have been paying attention to it. It could have been one of those things. I don't know.
I just heard
That shit woke
rumblings.
me up, though.
When we were out in Iraq, we heard rumblings from the guys. Like I said, I was a trauma nurse, so I didn't have access to night vision goggles. But we had first recon out there with us, and those guys were claiming there was stuff buzzing around in the skies all the time out there over the battlegrounds. But you know, at the time, they were saying the theory was it was all drone activity. But I was just curious. You know, they were definitely talking about that the skies were full of stuff buzzing around, and you know, some of the rumors from the guys were saying there was stuff up there representing movements that we didn't think we had, and that was back in 2004. So I was just curious with your wartime experiences if you had anything like that.
I had when I was in Pakistan, I talked to Jacob when we were stationed there. There's some special ops guys. They said the same thing, but like I said at the time, I was more nuts and bolts, so I figured it's drones or some crazy stuff. But seeing what I see now, I'm pretty sure they're probably seeing with their freaking night vision the same things that they're talking about in Ukraine and that I'm seeing every day. So
Yeah, that's just what made me think of it. I was wondering. I read through the article and it didn't really specify, but I was just curious if they've noticed increased activity since the invasion has been going down, and wondering if there's any correlation between what they're seeing and when the invasion started.
yeah, I think war has something to do with it. I think maybe the trauma that happens. I think their interest is this. Now, this is just purely speculation and opinion. It's almost like, let's say that's an advanced civilization that doesn't quite understand monkeys that kill each other, right? So they take a big interest in it. The ways we do it, the after effects, things like that. That's what it almost seems like with my experience. It just keeps going. It's just like, because like I always say, it it peaks during my emotional highs and lows, and that can't be a coincidence.
Yeah, I think you're onto something, and also from a historical perspective. I mean, we have historical account during battles. I mean, George Washington, I know, talked about seeing stuff over the battlefield, and it goes all the way back to the Romans would talk about seeing the flying shields and stuff over the big battles. So, if you take a historic, I think Richard Dolan did something on that a couple of years ago, but he kind of went through all the historical accounts during battles. It seems like, and yeah, it's not a new phenomenon for sure to increase the uptick to increase during battles. And I think you're right. Probably all the trauma that's going on might have something to do with that.
Yeah, I know which case you're talking about. That there was a battle with something like 100,000 soldiers between Rome and whatever the Gauls maybe. But they saw that disc come down right in the middle of the battle, middle of the day, and just landed between them. Isn't that right? That what you're talking about?
It said it followed them. I heard it said it followed them from battle to battle.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
That would make sense to what I was just saying. Then. That guys. But sorry, I was talking to my dogs, not you guys. You don't have to get back. The other thing that I was noticing too, I talked to a couple other experiencers, and they said the same thing. Congress had made a comment about how exponentially. I have to just remind, and I know people like to say, well, it's because we have more cameras and all that. Well, I pay attention a lot, right? So all the time, and what I see is increased exponentially. The amounts, what I'm seeing, what I'm recording. I mean, I live near Hanford nuke site, so go ahead, Joseph.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw a little bit of a conspiracy into the mix here where you're talking about Ukraine. I'm an experiencer as well, and I've seen things and I've communicated and stuff. So it's just opened my mind up to all possibilities. And at the beginning of the war, I seen something and it grabbed my attention, and it was talking about the pyramids under the ground at Ukraine. And that now this is the conspiracy part. It was saying that there's beings living in those pyramids, and their entrance to the surface is in Ukraine, and that's what Putin was trying to prevent, was these beings coming up. Now, after after seeing that, I actually investigated, and it turns out there are apparently 7 large pyramids under the surface in Ukraine. I was just wondering if you guys had heard anything about that.
Well, I'll tell you that, Joseph, I appreciate you bringing that up. I haven't heard that per se, but it wouldn't be far from the truth if you take the other different cases, like for example, Admiral Byrd with Operation High Jump in Antarctica, and and across the board, you keep hearing about under the ocean. I've heard a case about Egypt. So that would make total sense. And again, China and Russia have taken this stuff seriously, probably just as long as our government's been lying and saying they haven't, but they haven't dealt with the compartmentalization. So yeah, that's definitely believable. He may know a lot more than we do.
I know Tom DeLonge has really talked about an underground pyramid in Alaska too, somewhere outside of Valdez. He did I think it was on one of his podcasts when he was a host. I mean, he was a guest on. He talked about a pyramid that he believed, or he was told by some senior folks, supposedly folks in government, that said it was something to do with mind control or something like that. But Tom DeLonge has definitely talked about underground pyramids.
He said it was about suppressing consciousness, I think.
There you go. That's right.
Can you speak more on that, Ahmed?
I know very little. It's just in an interview that he had, and he was just talking about how apparently the government's always known about this. They've known about it for a while. I think that he was saying something about how they discovered it a while back, but they've only found out its purpose more recently. And yeah, and the whole idea is it suppresses consciousness. And what's the cool thing is I found someone in Reddit who combined that information along with, I think it was Ingo Swan's book. I think Ingo Swan, in one of his books, he's got this the story of how he meets along with 2 government officials, how they fly him into an airport, how a lot of people there are basically wearing USPS clothes, and it seems to be like a USPS hub. And he gets into this car, he's blindfolded, gets driven out. He gives an indication of how long he gets driven out for, and how they get to this ridge line, right, full of trees and all that, and how they're there at night. And the whole idea is they just sit behind, they're just waiting, and suddenly he says that it just materializes out of thin air. It's not like it flew in there. It's like it just starts, materializing in front of them. I think he talks about how
we might have lost you. We might have lost you there at the end, Ahmed.
Oh, did you? Oh, what was the last thing you heard?
I think disconnected. Keep going.
Sure. So yeah, it materializes in front of them. And then in his story, he talks about how there's like a laser that points out of that craft, and that's when they all start freaking out. They're like, "All right, it'll know we're here. We have to just make a run for it," and they just run away. But the cool thing is, this guy in Reddit, he took the information of how long the drive time was, details of the airport, being a USPS hub, and all that. This guy came up with a location. It's really cool. I'm gonna try to look for that Reddit post, but that guy has some details about it.
If you can post it. Sorry, I just smoked. Axelrod. Are you talking about when Axelrod and a partner took him out to the that ridge, and they
Exactly.
Was it when the UAP or UFO came out of the water and then started gulping the water and then like, we got to go if it knows we're here? Is that the one you're talking about?
Exactly. Yeah, I forgot about the water bit, but yeah, it didn't come out of the water. I remember he said that it materialized.
Oh, that's right, it did.
Just out of thin air.
It materialized and then starts absorbing the water, like pulling it up like
exactly.
a vacuum. And he was talking about how the plan was to put it on the moon or something.
I don't remember all that.
I think I thought Ingo Swan was saying something along the lines that it had something to do with the moon base, and they were trying to whatever the moon. But I like I said, that you may be right on that. I can't remember. So, but yeah, remote viewing. If you haven't got a chance, check out Third Eye Spies. That is off the chain. It's got we talked to Hal Putoff in there about it and about the whole program he was running.
I was curious, Joseph, could you tell us more about your research into how you discovered this? So first, how you got that message about the pyramids, and then second, how you did your homework to come up with 7 locations? I'd love to hear it.
Actually, the one of the Ukraine pyramids, that was just a YouTube video that just happened to pop up in my view, and I was just like, well, what's this all talking about? And basically that's all the video was talking about, is these pyramids under Ukraine, and that there were these demons that are going to come up to the surface through these pyramids, and that's what Putin was really trying to fight, and that's really what the behind the scenes was about the war. And the only investigation, I just searched afterwards for pyramids under the surface of Ukraine, and it turns out there's like 7 pyramids under the surface. So I just kind of found it interesting, that's all. But I didn't do any like major research or anything into it like that.
Oh, sorry, I hit the mic. I actually muted myself, had the mic on the whole time. That's pretty crazy you found that. So you just had a hunch and went and found it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I was just surfing through YouTube videos one day, and I just seen this pyramids and stuff under Ukraine, and it was right at the beginning of the war with Russia. So I just kind of clicked on the video, and I was like, "Oh, what's this about?" And that's kind of what it was talking about, you know. And if I could share a bit of my experience, like talking with these beings and stuff. Well, in one of the experiences, actually, I seen. Well, first I'll tell you, like, I was communicating with these beings for about 3 weeks solid every single night, and it was just a lot of random stuff. But I could ask them questions, and they would kind of show me stuff. And in one of them, I asked about the pyramids. What are the pyramids? And the response I got was kind of interesting. It was from a past civilization, and they gave me a vision. And in the vision, what I seen uh, it looked like hundreds of thousands of people sitting all on top of the pyramid and all around the pyramids, almost like worshiping. And there were like beams of energy shooting out the tops of the pyramids and going up to like the upper atmosphere and then spreading out almost like the aurora borealis. It was kind of cool, and it was something to do with changing frequencies, and they kind of showed me how the pyramids work in a sense. It's like if we were to look at the pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Giza, and in the what's called the King's Chamber, there's they call it a sarcophagus, but it's not a sarcophagus. It's like a resonating box. And there was a ball that would have been placed inside of the box, and the ball emits a frequency. And the way the pyramid works is the people around it are providing it energy. And the pyramid is absorbing the energy and forcing it up through the pyramid. And this ball in the King's Chamber is they even told me the hertz. It was a 932 hertz that it creates. And it would produce a sound. And above the King's Chamber, there's these large slats of granite that would cause the whole pyramid to resonate in this frequency. So as the energy was coming through the bottom and being forced up through the pyramid, it was like changing the frequency of the energy. Now, again, that's just part of the experience that I had. One of the things that they were showing me and stuff. Is that what these pyramids are? Who knows, right? I don't know. And as a person, I can only say that was the experience. That's what I seen. That's what I was kind of told, but I can't confirm it. And something else.
Energy? Oh, sorry, go on. I didn't mean to cut you off. My bad.
Well, something else I found interesting afterwards. So the way these beings communicate with you is sometimes they'll show you stuff in real life. So for instance, they showed me this thing about the pyramids, and a guy I was working with at the time, we were big into ufology. And as I was going through this experience and I was telling my friend all about it, like every day I would be like, oh, I talked to them last night and this is what they showed me, or this is what was done. So concerning the ball that went in the King's Chamber, for whatever reason, my friend showed me a video of a ball. And it's called, if people want to look this one up, it's called the Betz Sphere, BETZ. And what it was, it's like an 8-inch steel ball or metal ball that was found, I believe, in the 70s on a farm that had burned. The fields caught fire or something. And the son found this metal ball and he took it home. And it was a week or a couple of weeks later, I believe he was playing his guitar, and the ball reacted to the sound. So the ball started moving around by itself. And they had this ball examined by scientists and labs and stuff. They didn't want to try to penetrate the ball because they weren't sure if it's a bomb or something. But this ball was very peculiar. It would sit on a coffee table. It could roll itself to the edge and stop itself without falling off the table. So it's sort of like a way of communicating. It's almost like they were telling me, they were showing me this ball because they had just told me it was a ball that was placed inside of the king's chamber. Right. And then I just kind of put two and two together myself. And I'm like, okay, well, is it one of these kind of balls that they were referring to that goes inside of the pyramid? And the last that happened to the ball, that sphere, is the government took it after scientists and stuff had it, examined it, and they couldn't figure it out. And apparently the government came in and they took it, and the family never seen the ball again. So I kind of found that was kind of interesting as well.
Yeah, right on. Is that kind of a similar ball to the Ross Coulter documentary, correct? Balls of Steel?
Oh, I'm not sure. I haven't checked out that documentary. This one here was just like you could find this on YouTube if you were to just put in Bet's sphere, and it'll tell you the story about how this family found this ball and what the ball was doing and all of this stuff.
Right on, man. Thank you for that, Joseph. What's up, Frank Milburn? We got Frank in the house. You get a chance, you should follow him. OG Science on the UAP topic. I have no pressure. If you want to talk, let me know and I'll send you an invite, or accept it if you want. You can talk. He knows what's going on. His opinion is one I would listen to. He may be in here just to mock me, though. I'm just playing, Frank. So up in the thread, actually, I posted, or not the thread, the nest. I posted a bunch of different things, some of the videos that I've captured, some of the people other people that cover this topic, those type of things. If you get a chance, go up there, check them out. The thing that I'm interested in, I don't know if Frank I know he had seen it. So I'm curious to see what Frank thinks of that report out of Ukraine about the UAP stuff they discovered. But I guess we'll see. I know it's pretty late over there.
Well, I will say I think it's interesting.
It is very interesting. Thank you for that, Chase. You want any more you want to add to that's interesting? I mean, let us know how you really feel.
It was caught going like 33,000 miles an hour. Is that right?
Yeah, man. They got like 35,000 miles an hour in the upper atmosphere. That is insane. Two types. The Phantoms, which is one of the things that I see over Hanford. And there's another one. What is it? Cosmic Phantoms and something else? But this is a civil. During a war, these guys are straight up doing civilian science and do more than our government. That's crazy.
No, I was watching someone made a comment. It's like, yeah, we need to go study it. I was like, honestly, how can you? I don't know. That's kind of hard to study it right now, especially in an active war zone.
Hey Frank, what's up? Yeah, it is. Did you see that that article?
Hello, mate. Hold on a second. I'm just sorting out my volume.
All right. Just let me know.
Sorry. What was the question?
Did you get a chance to see that article about Ukraine and the UAPs?
No, I didn't. What was it saying?
I put it up here at the very top. If you look, let me see if I can find it. It's apparently they had a civilian. Gosh, unprepared. 1 second. Okay. 1 second, Frank, and I'll get it to you. So, main astronomical observatory of NAS of Ukraine has managed to collect imagery depicting several anomalies and aerial events. And then when you get in the article, it starts discussing two different objects that they've been tracking. And one of them, up to 35,000 miles an hour. I think I did post a little blurb in here somewhere maybe, but yeah.
Okay, what's the source of this? What's the source?
I'm going to send it to you right now, actually, Frank, in your DMs. So
I think it was the debrief.
Yeah, the debrief.
Yeah, I don't really rate much of what comes out of the debrief. I mean, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so great.
Okay, appreciate that opinion. I'm glad you said
But if we're talking about, no, I'm not slagging off the debrief. They do some really good work. Just, I don't automatically jump on everything that they say. What are we talking about UAP in relation to the crisis at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant in Ukraine? Is that what we're talking about?
Maybe that's what this is all about. And they just didn't mention that in the article, but they're talking about some science they've been doing and tracking UAPs. So what do you got to know about that?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me because it could be the next nuclear crisis after Chernobyl, right? Which is going to affect, well, basically all of Europe, UK. Hopefully not where I live because I'm in the Spanish Canary Islands off the west coast of Africa. But the Russians are basically playing Russian roulette. They invaded Ukraine in an illegal war of aggression, and they've deliberately housed vehicles and assets in and around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. They've also deliberately fired mortar rounds at another plant which has basically ash pits. So I think that the Russians are playing nuclear roulette with the international community.
I actually kind of agree with that, Frank. Let me ask you this, since you mentioned that. I've been saying in the spaces lately that like this game of nuclear brinkmanship and their constant UAPs being around nukes and stuff. And do you think there's any kind of a relationship to what Putin's doing right now?
Sorry, relationship to what?
The fact, let's just say maybe that they're a little more active now because Putin's playing this brinksmanship with nuclear weapons.
Well, maybe. I mean, just a hypothesis. If you're a deep earth dweller or a deep ocean dweller, and there have been like 4,000 nuclear tests since World War II, above ground, below ground, surface and subsurface in the ocean, then maybe that's screwing with your environment and screwing with your ability to, I don't know, extract hydrogen from water. That's just a hypothesis of mine. I'm not a kind of like a, what do you call it, like a kumbaya guy. I don't think that intelligence is behind UAP are here to help us. If they had, they would have stopped the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they would have put a stop to humankind playing with nukes since then.
Right on. I kind of agree with that, Frank. Let me ask you this: you didn't get a chance to see Jim Simony-Vance. He did an interview on Calling All Beans yesterday, did you? And he was talking about mainly the negative aspect. Basically, what you're saying that you don't know to trust this. I wouldn't communicate with this. All that. And if you see orbs run.
Well, I did see. Yeah, I did. I watched that last night. And I say Jim Simony-Vance and we come from similar backgrounds. Okay, he was CIA. I was UK Defence Intelligence. But I think we both err on the side of caution. We're also both experiencers, right? So I've had positive experiences. I've had negative experiences. But for me, the jury is out on whether, whether it is a phenomenon or many phenomena that are part of the phenomenon, or whether it's like many disparate phenomena. But when I see UAP interactions over, US nuclear sites, UK nuclear sites, like Rendlesham in 1980 in the UK, to me it is indicative of two things or three things. One, it's like an overwhelming display of unequal force. Okay, so it's like a firepower demonstration. Two, it looks to me that intelligence is behind UAP conducting intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. And three, it's like kind of like a direct message. It's basically saying that we have the capabilities to either shut down. We have the ability to overfly your airspace with impunity. We have the ability to shut down your nukes or initiate your nukes in the case of the former USSR. And there's nothing that you can do about it. So to me, that's indicative, even in the most optimistic scenario, that's indicative of a highly unequal relationship.
I agree. I got another question before I go on. Hey guys, do me a favor, get in that thread and hit the like and retweet because Frank's in here and we got him in here. I'd like to ask him questions. So what I was going to actually mention, Frank, is I live near Hanford nuclear site, right? And I've been saying this for 2 years. It's made me uneasy watching these things fly with impunity over Hanford. No one mentions the word, right? I tweeted at my senators, and now there's articles coming out of people at Hanford having experiences, and I'm like, are you for real? And I thought the same thing. Why wouldn't anyone be a little sketched out? It's almost like they're either telling us there's nothing you can do to stop us, or, the other option is, like you said, that's the whole fairy tale of, are they trying to protect us? I highly doubt it. They would have stopped so many other atrocities besides that, correct? Screen name, you got a question?
This was kind of back from earlier. I was just going to let Joseph know I shared a lot of information about the metal spheres and Patrick Jackson's theory. I'm going to keep preaching him until he's proven wrong.
Right on. Frank, did you get a chance to see either of Ross Cohort's documentaries? He's got the one on the sphere and then another one with Zabel.
Yeah, I saw them both.
What do you think of either one? Actually, I'd like your opinion on both, if you don't mind giving it.
Yeah, sorry, what was the second one?
I would like your opinion on either one of those, if you don't mind giving it. The second one was probably my favorite. The ball one I just wasn't too into, but the second one and what they mentioned about the napkin, do you have any opinion on that?
Sorry, opinion on the what? One was a sphere. What was the other one?
I was going to say, did you have an opinion on that? I guess the story when they said, was it Axelrod or somebody came in and gave him a napkin with some kind of a formula?
I don't know about that, mate. As far as the sphere goes, I don't know. I thought that was a bit kind of out there. Could well be. I just don't know enough to make an intelligent comment.
Right on. I hear you on that. Go ahead, Ahmed.
Hey, Frank. I mean, since we're just turning this into asking you many questions, thought first off, would you mind us asking questions? Because if you didn't, I wouldn't want to keep bugging you with questions. But I thought,
go ahead, ask him.
Given your, no, I thought just asking him if he's fine with it, as opposed to just being part of a discussion, as opposed to Q&A. But I was just curious to know, just keeping it more open-ended, are there any hypotheses that you could manage to test and get a conclusive answer for, whether it's confirming or being able to conclusively deny anything that you've done or that's out there?
Sorry, Ahmed, in the first instance, ahlan wa sahlan fiqh, habibi. I'm sorry, what was the question again? I didn't get it.
Sure thing. It was basically, again, just given your position to SCU and, defensive. Have you ever managed to, are there any hypotheses you can tell us that you've actually tested, they can have a conclusive answer for? Something that you could determine is not part of the phenomenon or is part of the phenomenon? Just keeping it open-ended. Anything that you can conclusively learn over your time,
Mate, I really don't know. All I can say is from my time in defense intelligence, UAP flying over British airspace with impunity, okay, and I'm pushing my boat out here because I shouldn't be talking about this. It was definitely considered to be a threat, and we didn't know what it was. Much like the U.S. government today doesn't know exactly what it is, unless there's some deep dark hole in the U.S. kind of aerospace and defense community that does actually know what it is, or a deep dark hole in the U.S. intelligence and defense community that knows what it is. We didn't know what it was in defense intelligence.
What made it deemed to be a threat? Is it just the fact that it just appearing, not communicating with us, or are there other characteristics that made it deemed a threat?
Well, no, the criteria were several criteria. It was like, one was, if UAP could fly with impunity into British airspace during peace, crisis, or war. Okay, so that's quite an obvious one. The second one was, if UAP could evade, land, basically surface-to-air missiles or air-based interceptors. And the third one was if UAP could penetrate the UK air defense region and gather, electronic intelligence, basically signals intelligence and communications intelligence. So those were the three criteria. And I think the UAP meet all those criteria for being categorized by the military as a threat.
Thank you,
Sorry, I should say as a potential threat.
Awesome. I was gonna say the second one is very, very fascinating. So, and again, maybe this goes into territory where we can't talk about it. What percentage of attempts where we see them do we actually try to engage with them, where they actually have evaded our attempts at bringing them down?
Well, I know of attempts to shoot down UAP that were not successful. If you look on my Twitter feed, I've just recently posted a recent interview that I did with French TV, where I talk about in the mid-90s, the early to mid-90s, British-based interceptors attempting to shoot down a UAP.
So is it a majority that we go for? Is these one-offs that we try something shooting them, or is it a majority that we always attempt to go for shooting?
Well, I think you have to look at it in the. I mean, look, I can only say from the 90s because that's when I was serving. It was still, even after 1989, right? There was still a Cold War going, even when Yeltsin was in power in Russia and supposedly friendly to the United States and Britain, that the Russians never stopped their long-range flights and basically trying to penetrate the UK air defense region, right? So, to my mind and to my knowledge, when I was in defense intelligence, the Russians never managed to penetrate the UK air defense region because there were British interceptors based there, also American interceptors based there that worked with the RAF. But UAP were able to penetrate our air defense region with impunity.
Hey, Shane, you were cutting out real bad there. Yeah, I can't hear you, Shane.
Can you guys hear me now?
It's a little bit better, but still kind of bad. Well, why have you, Frank? If you're British intelligence, do you know anything about crop circles?
Mate, I'll be honest with you, I'm not big on expertise with that, but my dear departed friend Amy Eskridge, who was part of the kind of like American scientific and defense community, she told me that vast majority of crop circles are false, are hoaxes, but the ones that are, she said that the kind of chemical composition of the stalks, she goes, it's indicative of a process whereby UAP are extracting energy from the ether, i.e. for free energy.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Frank,
Sorry,
can I
guys.
ask a
Can you
question?
hear me?
Frank, you there?
I can hear
One
you
second.
now, Shane.
Okay, sorry. This Twitter Spaces suck, man. It just booted me. But all right, go ahead, Francis. You have a question?
Frank, sorry to hear about Amy. I heard you discuss it over a week ago when you were on. Best respects, sir, mate. I wanted to ask you, what are the most recent UAP penetration of UK airspace recently that you can talk about?
Hey, brother, you're from Bonnie, Scotland, yeah?
Yo, how you doing there, Frankie boy?
No, you're from Scotland, mate.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, no, because my stepdad was in the Argyll and Southern Highlanders, and my family regiment was the Royal Scots Greys.
All right, there you go. My grandfather was a mercer. He was an RSM.
Okay, fantastic. My captain, my uncle, Captain Frank Harper, he won the Military Cross with the. He was Gordon Highlander. He won the Military Cross with the King's African Rifles in Kenya.
Aye. Well, my grandfather was Hugh Mercer Allen, RSM. He, once World War II broke out, he resigned his commission and came home to Europe, came back to Scotland to obviously get involved.
Well, respect to all Highland soldiers.
There you go. My question for you,
sorry,
Frank,
mate. What was the question, mate?
The question, if you're allowed to speak about it, is UAPs penetrating UK airspace. What is the most recent event you're allowed to speak about?
Well, listen, mate. I'll tell you. I left defense intelligence in 1998. So I'm not really able to speak on the most recent event. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's just I've been picking up a few wee things in the past month up in Stirling. But if you check my thread, you'll see what I'm talking about. But it's good to hear your voice, mate.
It's good to hear your voice too, Mucker.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah, respect, mate.
Respect, man.
Thank you, Francis. I appreciate that. Joseph, you've got a question. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention to Frank. So my experience with these beings has always been pleasant. One time they scared me, but that was my own fear that generated it. It wasn't them, and they didn't harm me. In regards to them, like you're saying, they can penetrate the UK airspace. First question I ask is, do they know that people have staked a claim to airspace? Like, do you think that they realize they're in any type of violation? For them, they're just cruising around. It's like, let's let's imagine if they're a civilization that the planet's not divided up into multiple countries and multiple different societies, that they just live in a more a unified planet, right? They wouldn't understand that they are invading people's spaces. And as far as having the capabilities of disarming nuclear weapons, well, that could be seen as a positive as well. If in the event of a nuclear war, could they intervene and stop it? It would be nice to know that somebody would have that capability. You know, like I just look at it and say, well, until they do something that creates a threat, I don't think we should be looking at them as a threat. Only because, like, they've been here for like possibly thousands of years. If you look at all the Aboriginal stories about star beings and star people and stuff, and this is all around the planet, and these stories are ancient. So if these beings wanted to harm us in thousands of years, I think they would have already. I just wanted to ask you, like, what do you think on that take? Like, do they realize that they are being invasive with us? Or could it be an error on their part and an error on our part on how we're perceiving that invasiveness?
Okay, yeah, it's a very good question. Let's unpack that. In the first instance, if you assume that they've been around for, you know, thousands of years, and you know, certainly history suggests that there's been human interaction with you know, with UAP from the times of, like, you know, Alexander the Great and the Romans, then you know, yes, because they would be observing, you know, human development. Secondly, if they have, you know, they must have highly sophisticated sensors to be able to move through time and space, and probably transdimensionally, and you know, their interaction, for example, with you know, the Nimitz strike group and with the Roosevelt carrier strike group. You know, and if you look at, for example, you know, the cap point issue, which I wrote about in my first paper, at you know, during the Nimitz group incident. So they certainly have sensors. They certainly know where they are in time and space, and they certainly seem to be able to anticipate humans' interactions, if not be able to you know, decrypt very highly sensitive and encrypted you know, human communications. Okay, so if you say then, well, you know, the argument, well, why haven't they done something up to now? Well, you know, to present a threat. Well, I would argue that they have, because you know, shutting down or initiating a nuke in 1980 in Ukraine, the whole northern tier. I spoke to Bob Salas actually last year. The whole you know, northern tier issue, where they were shutting down nuclear silos in the US. That's clearly a clear and present danger, because they are shutting down, like, you know, your major nuclear assets. And people who say, oh, well, they haven't, you know, if they were going to do something, they would have done something by now. Well, you know, if they've been around for eons, then maybe they measure time in a completely different way than we do. And human beings have only really started to present a threat since 1945 or 1944, when we harnessed the atom. And then when we used atoms, you know, atomic weapons against our own species. And now you have, you know, a highly resilient species, you know, the human being, which is basically like a locust that's moved from place to place on planet Earth, and basically, you know, subsumed every other, you know, technologically, you know, weaker human tribe. And now, you know, now we're going to Mars. So if I were, you know, an ultra-terrestrial or an extraterrestrial, you know, race looking at human beings, I would find us very, very threatening. And we've only recently become a major threat to them, as I said, since, you know, 1944 when we harnessed the atom, 1945 when we used atomic weapons on our own people, and now we're poised to go into space. So yes, I would think that we do present a threat to them.
Yeah, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because that's exactly what I was thinking is, do they perceive us as a threat or a potential threat? And, you know, is there a plan that one day they're going to come down and interact with us? And perhaps them wanting to know of our military capabilities is for their own protection in case we decide to attack them when they do come down. You know, that's
well, that could well be. Look, that could well be, but I mean, look at the hideous things that we humans have done. I mean, not only to each other, whether you're talking about Hitler, whether you're talking about Stalin, whether you're talking about Pol Pot, whether you're talking about what happened in the former Yugoslavia, the genocides, whether you're talking about the genocide in Ukraine. Human beings, we do hideous things, not only to our own species, but to other species and our planet. So to me, there would be a multitude of reasons and motivations for beings that were either extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial living here to hold us not only in disdain, but also with alarm because of the way that we behave, and also because we are, developing, exponentially rapidly.
Hey, Frank, it's Rocky. Just wanted to say hi, buddy.
Hi, buddy.
Good to hear your voice, man.
Thanks,
Likewise,
Daniel
my friend.
Hey, Daniel, go ahead. You got a question? Then you're up, Ahmed.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, Frank, I just had a quick question. You've probably addressed this a number of times. Don't think I've had a direct interaction with you about it, though. I'd just like to see if your involvement in the Ministry of Defense coincides with Philip Mantle's assessment of Nick Pope's involvement as a clerk of sorts. So, he, the UFO department and leading that investigation, do you know of anything to corroborate that claim, or if he was actually just a clerk, or if he was really doing anything more than that?
Sorry, can I validate Nick Pope's claims? Is that the question?
Yeah, essentially,
so,
or
yes,
if
Frank.
he was just the clerk to an office or something.
Yeah, well, look, mate, I never served the Ministry of Defence. I joined Airborne at 17. I joined the British Army Parachute Regiment. Then I was selected for officer. I went to the London School of Economics for 3 years. I spent a year doing officer training, the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, and then I was recruited direct for military intelligence. So I was operating on the ground. I operated with UK Special Forces. I operated with the Royal Marines and their Special Forces. I worked with the Royal Navy. I worked with the Royal Air Force. I wasn't at the Ministry of Defence, so I can't validate any of Nick Pope's claims. What I will say is that Nick and I are friends, and a lot of people are saying, "Oh, he did this or he did that." I mean, to be honest, I don't really care. And if he makes like money off it, then like good luck to him. He and his wife have been incredibly kind to me. Nick has shared files with me that he didn't share with other people. I've got nothing bad to say about the guy.
Thank you for that, Frank. And before you
Fair enough.
go, Ahmed, before you go, thanks for that, Daniel. I was going to say, hey guys, do me a favor, get in the thread, like it, retweet, add somebody if you think they got good questions or they would actually enjoy a space where we're not having drama and we're talking about UAPs. How crazy is that, right? UFO Twitter, and we're not freaking each other out. So go ahead if you got a question, Ahmed.
And I'd just like to share, I do appreciate that you give a different perspective. I've met with Nick on a number of occasions, and nothing bad to say about him. It's just that's been a big issue that people detract from it. So he's a great guy, very personable. So I'm glad you shared that, Frank.
Yeah, listen, mate, I'm not an angel, right? I'll be honest with you guys. Like, I've been shit-faced drunk a few times, and I've had arguments with people on Twitter, and I've said things that I regretted later. And I apologize to those who didn't deserve it. I don't apologize to those who did deserve it. But I really now, I'm like 53, guys, nearly, and I just try and stay away from all these negative tweets. It really actually had a very bad negative effect on my health. I'm a British Army veteran. I spent 6 years of my life in Iraq. I spent nearly a year in Northern Ireland in the conflict there. I have PTSD, which I try to manage. So I've just really tried to limit the amount of kind of negative exposure that I have on social media. That's just me being honest.
I agree, Frank. I do the same thing. I can't handle that stuff. And the other thing is, you made a comment about you ain't been the best person, man. I always wonder if people find what happened to me after the war, 2010 to 18, all the different charges I took, they ain't going to like me. Go ahead, Ahmed.
Hey, Frank. I was wondering if you could provide us some insight into how Defense Intelligence handled this issue. So I'm thinking about 3 cases. One would be, for example, something pops up on the radar. What's like the mode of action? What are the steps that they run down to actually assess the issue? Also, how far did it go when they look at the issue more holistically? So outside of just one case, is it just a case of tracking down what possibilities it could be and foreign tech, or do they go the whole route of let's see what's in open source intelligence? Oh, look, there's a whole consciousness aspect. Let's explore that, and also the counterintelligence aspect. How do you do you keep the lid closed, share with international partners or Five Eyes partners? Um, yeah, is there a compartmentalization, NDAs? What's the limits of them? Where is this information? How deeply hidden is it? Just love to hear about just insights about how defense intelligence worked. Thanks.
Yeah, sure, mate. I mean, in terms of UK air intercepts, I mean, it's very simple. UK radars, UK vessels offshore, UK and well, actually, because I flew on joint UK and NATO AWACS, right? Because the AWACS are usually joint teams. So it's usually a multinational team on board the AWACS, Americans and European partners. So threats are detected before they come near the UK air defense region. And, if it's like a Russian long-range Bear bomber, you have a couple of Typhoons or, these days as well, an F-35 will be a couple of F-35s be launched to intercept them. Okay. If it's UAP and it's something that's penetrated the UK air defense region, then obviously that's highly irregular. And that's treated in a different way because, we did the whole of the Cold War, the Brits and the Americans successfully defended the British Isles from incursions. I have no knowledge of a successful incursion by a Russian aircraft into, for example, the 3-mile territorial limit of the UK coastline, for example, right? So that is handled in a different way. And especially if a UAP were flying near sensitive UK installations, whether military or nuclear, and Scotland is a hotbed for that. Okay. Now, in terms of counterintelligence, probably the biggest issue for me was against our own people. Was making sure that the information didn't get out so as not to panic. Well, I mean, UK military personnel are highly professional. They don't panic, but there's no point overloading people with the idea of a threat that they have no defense against if they don't need to know about it. And obviously, keeping that from adversaries as well. I hope that answered your question.
A good question. Thank you for that, Frank. Also, guys, up in the nest, I posted a Basis Center. Frank, some of Frank's different papers are up in there. So would you like to talk about any of your papers, Frank?
No, I just say I think my papers, without being big-headed, they stand the test today. And if people read them, the first paper basically delves into UAP technologies. It kind of like it puts a lid on whether it's ours or theirs, like adversarial, or ours or theirs, others. And it comes down firmly in favor of it's others, i.e. non-terrestrial. And also I delve deeply into the physics of UAP, propulsion, and also weapon systems. But without that, there's no equations or anything like that. There's nothing in Mandarin Chinese. I'm a non-scientist. If I can understand it, anybody can. And the second paper basically delves into the fact that Elizondo and Mellon, it's my hypothesis, that they want to have an all-encompassing Manhattan 2 project, which basically encompasses all UAP programs, black programs, and brings them under one roof, so that, as Dr. Eric Davis says, by 2050, the Americans can approximate the characteristics of the Tic Tac in case the intelligences behind Tic Tac become hostile. In my first paper, I surmise as well that the People's Republic of China, being infinitely better resourced than the Russians, that this will be a primary focus of intelligence gathering efforts for them to understand what the Americans are doing, probably to leverage their own investigations into UAP and to get ahead of the Americans. And the Americans need to get ahead of the Russians and the Chinese. So that was basically what my two papers were about.
Thank you for explaining that, Frank. That's nice. Anybody else got any more questions?
I just want to follow up on my last question about the counterintelligence bit. So, Frank, what I'm trying to get at is is this information, would it be possible for us as citizens then through like, freedom of information requests, would we ever be able to get any worthwhile information, or is it just a futile task?
You could probably get useful information like John Greenwald does from the American government, but you won't from the British government.
So that's gonna be my follow-up. What should we ask for? What are the keywords with the British government? But I guess it's a moot point then. Awesome, thanks.
I did have a question earlier, Frank, and go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt, Frank.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, as far as the Brits go, right, it's like we're far more Byzantine and secretive than the Americans. You can use all the keywords you want, and you're just going to get. I've got many British friends, in the UAP community that they've submitted requests to the Royal Air Force, the Ministry of Defence, and they always get the same boilerplate reply, which is basically, we don't comment on intelligence matters, and we don't comment on the relationship between the UK and the United States. UAP are of no, defence significance. The UAP, the British government, the Ministry of Defence has, issued, publicly available UAP reports, and the Ministry of Defence doesn't handle UAP inquiries, right? So, that's basically it in the UK.
Would it be worthwhile then asking other intelligence partners or other countries' partners that? So you mentioned how you're basically on the deck, where you guys are working together, right, across multiple nations. So when you get information, you guys source some information. It's never getting out. The Americans get some information. It might get out. So would you say there's like a country within Five Eyes that's worth targeting? And also, a follow-up question is, based off of your time there, any keywords that we could ask our American counterparts?
Yeah, I think the countries to target would be the United States, Canada, and Australia, and possibly New Zealand. I live in Spain. I speak reasonably fluent Spanish, so I go through the Spanish government's UAP files. As for keywords, well, all the keywords are currently being used.
Dates as well, when you were dates of certain incidents that you might be aware of. Anything that we could, anything, locations, dates.
Yeah, I can't really provide that kind of information. I'm sorry.
Just gotta ask. Thanks, Frank.
Hey, you had to ask, Ahmed. That's fair.
Yeah.
Listen, whatever my fascination for the UAP topic, I will always be first and foremost a British patriot, right? I serve my country. I still aim to serve my country, my queen and country, and also, our allies, right? And for me, the Americans are cousins, they're brothers and sisters. I served with Americans numerous times, like in Iraq. Okay, so what can I say? I'm not a gatekeeper. I don't have that level of information, but I would never do anything that basically could prejudice anything in the Five Eyes Alliance.
Same here. I have to agree. One of my fondest memories of war was actually one of the coalition bases that I was at in Kyrgyzstan. All I could think was, man, I got DFACs, dining facilities from every country in the world, Italian, it was amazing. I loved it. And they were my brothers too. So, Frank, I had a question earlier. I don't know if you heard it. I think I cut out. So, in your opinion, does the United States have crash retrievals? And if they did, would they hide them in the private sector? Just your opinion.
Yeah, I believe they do. And Amy Eskridge, who's dead now, I can quote her. I never quoted her before. She was one of the sources that I talked to. Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I mean, she's literally an expert on free energy and also UAP propulsion. I asked her one day, how would you shoot down a UFO? And she goes, I can't tell you. I'll just, I wasn't prime. I said, how would you shoot down a UFO? So I was interested. She goes, I can't tell you because that information could be used by enemies to shoot down our craft. And I asked her, I said, do we have, do the Americans have five observable tech? And she said, no, they don't have five observable tech, but they have craft, US manufactured craft that are way in advance of anything in the current inventory of the United States Air Force, like F-22, F-35. She said it's not properly understood. She goes, the technology is still kind of crappy. And she said, it's not available yet to be, deployed in squadrons, because if it were, then the Americans wouldn't be spending money on, F-35 and boosting F-35 with the F-15X, right? When it comes to crash retrievals, yes, I definitely believe that the Americans have crash retrievals. I believe that the British have crash retrievals too, but don't ask me about that because I won't comment. And but I believe that the technology is not yet understood. I believe it's like, like the common thing they say. It's like giving, you could give Leonardo da Vinci an iPhone, right? And like he wouldn't be able to figure out how to use it. And I think that's basically the situation that we're at. But I don't think that we're thousands of years behind from what I'm told. We're not thousands of years behind the people or the beings who have built the Tic Tacs and other UAP. I think it's a matter of maybe 20, 30, 40 years, maybe maximum 100 years, according to the scientists that I speak to. Does that help?
Yeah, that definitely helps. I think Shane's having some hearing issues, so I think he's restarting his app. So I just want to ask you a little bit more. Have you looked at the Calvine photo?
Yeah, I have, mate. But I'll be honest, I've got really nothing to add, except that I was at that base, the one that they call the British Area 51, RAF Machrihanish. I was there in when was it? 1994. I was there with Special Forces. I was an intelligence officer attached to Special Forces. I talked to some. I was basically it was a Special Forces NATO exercise, and I was briefing RAF pilots on the scenario. It wasn't the Brits and NATO had control of the air, but there was definitely a surface-to-air missile threat. So I was briefing the pilots on that, and then I started talking to some pilots about, and then they were telling me that about UAP intercepts that they'd done, and I remember that very well because it was a very warm summer, and we did a couple of water insertions as part of the exercise. So I remember that, jumping into the sea for sure.
Thank you for answering that, Frank. I'm back, Chase. Anybody else have any questions for Frank? Well, guys, I appreciate everybody coming today. Frank, thank you for coming in, dude. You always come in, light my space up, and answer some questions. And I know you don't think you're a god on the subject, but I tell you that we all appreciate it. It really helps us because a lot of us are here for, just like you, we want answers, questions. We like to talk about the subject. We're not here for that bullshit drama. Wait, we got one person, another veteran who may actually have a question for you.
Wait, no, Shane, I'm here for the drama. What do you mean?
Yeah, no doubt, Chase. What's up, Peanut Butter? You got a question for Frank?
I'm sorry, man. No, I don't. There was just something I wanted to...
Hey, Frank, do you know anything about the alien implants?
No, I don't, mate. Not at all.
Well, I'm
but
working on that.
I believe it's highly plausible. Highly plausible.
Well, I'm working on that right now, but I saw that they were putting names on people and they possess your body or they get inside your body, these spirits.
Hey, buddy, we're just asking questions right now, okay, bud? We'll get back to this where we're
okay.
Open for everybody, okay?
So just as a final question, Frank, any question you think we should be asking or anything you think we're focusing our time, it's misplaced or we should be focusing our time on, or anything we should ask you that you'd like us to ask?
Yeah, I think we should be asking Congress, American Congress, like how invested they really are in leveraging the new laws over the UAP issue, because let's not forget we've got like a major global crisis over Ukraine, another major global crisis over Taiwan, and it's very easy for lawmakers to lose interest in UAP, not lose interest, but to get sidetracked because there are clear and present dangers that they have to address, right? So I think for American citizens, certainly, keep pressing, your senators and representatives.
Thank you for that, Frank.
Thanks.
I appreciate you the questions, guys. I'm going to actually kind of end the space, but why don't we do me a favor, go down, like, retweet, and that way people can check this out. And Frank, I always appreciate you dropping in. I really do, man. I love hearing from you too. Thank you.
Mate, I love you too, mate, and thanks very much. Whenever I see you with a space, I'll try and drop in if I've got time, okay?
Oh, brother, I love it. Thank you very much.
All
Take
right,
care,
brother.
Frank.
Listen, and thanks for all the questions. Yeah, and I love all of you. Bye.
Thanks, Frank.
That was most righteous, guys. I appreciate you guys coming in. I'm going to actually kind of in this space now. So if somebody else wants to start one up, I may pop in, but I got to grab me some dinner and stuff. So do me a favor, retweet, like, let's get this out there. Let people hear it. Some good questions. And like you said, be thinking about questions for Frank. He'll be back. Peace, guys.